Hello and welcome to Lunchtime Politics on Channels Television. I'm Millicent Walker. On the news this hour, Nigeria's Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, tasks governors-elect on raising their state's internally generated revenue as a way of fast-tracking development and rolling back poverty. In Governor of Bayelsa State, Governor Sirike Dixon declines assent to the controversial life pension bill as pensioners protest non-payment of pension arrears. Welcome everyone to the program. Now we kick off with the Governor of Bayelsa State, Sirike Dixon, declining assent to the lifetime pensions for former lawmakers of Bayelsa State. This is following a public outcry. Confirming the decision in a statement, the State's Commissioner for Information, Mr. Daniel Iworiso-Moxon, says the governor conveyed his position in a letter to the Speaker of the State House of Assembly. According to him, this is needed to be done because the state is bedeviled with a lot of challenges. He further said that in spite of its low internally generated revenue base and unstable earnings from the oil economy, Bayelsa is the only one out of Nigeria's 36 states to come up with such a bill. The bill, earlier proposed by the leader of the Bayelsa State House of Assembly, Peter Akpe, and passed by the House, had attracted a harsh public criticism.
That backlog of gratuity, pensions, and other matters have never been dealt with for the past years. We strongly condemn how the bill was passed.
We are seeing anti-people bill because they have seen that this money that they say is not available is available. The 13% is available for them to do anyhow. And that is why greed and moral bankruptcy has led them to this very shameful and embarrassing level of passing this bill.
Meanwhile, pensioners from the federal agencies and the private sector, they are asking the federal government to pay the outstanding arrears of all pensioners in the country. The pensioners under the umbrella of federal agencies and private sector Pensioners Association of Nigeria addressed a news conference in Abuja. The acting president of the association, Mr. Temple Ubani, appealed to the government to save the lives of pensioners by enrolling them into the National Health Insurance Scheme.
We appreciate the Pension Transitional Arrangement Directorate, PTAD, for a sanitized pension regime, improved welfare of pensioners, and prompt payment of monthly pensions. We commend their efforts on the ongoing national verification of federal parastatal pensioners across the zones of the country and urge them to sustain the tempo. We are equally calling on members, parastatal pensioners nationwide, to cooperate with PTAD verification officials for smooth and successful exercise. However, we plead with the federal government to ensure that all prevailing challenges of pensioners, including the payment of outstanding pension arrears, 33% pension increase arrears of some of our members, and importantly, enrollment of all pensioners into the National Health Insurance Scheme.
Well, the federal government has declared Wednesday, May 1st, 2019 as a public holiday to celebrate 2019 Workers' Day. Now, the Minister of Interior, Lieutenant General Abdulrahman Dambazar, retired, who made the declaration on behalf of the government, congratulated Nigerian workers on their commitment and sacrifice towards building a greater Nigeria. But only yesterday, labor unions in the country are seeking to draw the attention of the government on the need to create more jobs. The purpose of the walk was staged at the Federal Capital Territory by the Nigeria Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress, tagged March for Jobs. The unions also called on all employers of labour to pay the new national minimum wage as approved by President Muhammadu Buhari. Our correspondent Terry Kumi has that report.
It is just past 8 o'clock in the morning of the first working day of the week in the nation's capital, and labor unions have gathered at the headquarters of the Nigeria Labour Congress, preparing to take to the streets of Abuja. This walk, tagged March for Decent Jobs, Dignity and Social Justice in Nigeria, is basically to prompt government and employers of labor to implement the new minimum wage and improve infrastructure for mass job creation.
We call on government to rehabilitate public roads, power supply, railway, inland waterway, schools, and hospitals as enabling infrastructure for mass industrialization and mass job. We call on all employers of labor to quickly commence the implementation of the new national minimum wage of 30,000 naira.
Then the march begins. The workers sing solidarity songs through the streets of the nation's capital, assisted by the police and the Federal Road Safety Corps. The labor union says it was not surprised when Nigeria was named the poverty capital of the world last year, expressing concerns about the state of the nation's public schools and healthcare institutions, and vows to continue its campaigns against anti-workers' policies and practices. To employers who dehumanize workers and rob them of their rights, the NLC says in clear terms, "We will dare you, we will win." Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
Well, Nigeria's poverty index shows that about 87 million of Nigerians are living below the poverty line. Let's join our Senior Programs Manager for the Center for Democracy and Development, Mr. Samsudeen Yusuf, who joins us from Abuja studios to get more perspective on this issue. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. And based on the figures, based on the march, based on what the NBS has shown us recently about the number of unemployed growing and also underemployed, is it that the government is finding it difficult to create more jobs, or the population is increasing too fast for the policies of government?
Well, I think our current situation is quite disheartening. If you really want to look, the economy, the population is actually growing from approximately 120 million in 1999 to as of today, UN said we are 201 million there, 1 million Nigerians, which is like almost 90 or 90 something percent, growth in terms of population of the country. And this entire conversation about policy alleviation or intervention is also boiled down to the sincerity and commitment of the government to develop not just a palliative policy or measures to addressing, tackling the issue of poverty. One of the key things, the trend, what we've observed since 1999 is that conversation about job creation, and that's actually based on the assumption that if you have a job, you should be able to get out of poverty. But we've seen that growing over years, which means something is wrong somewhere, and it's now left for the government to have a think about the kind of strategies they've been designing to addressing this problem. And one of the fundamental things is the lack of realization on the part of the government to develop a holistic approach to addressing this problem. Now, we talked about creating jobs. Jobs for who? jobs for locators of citizens, but not thinking in terms of how we bring these citizens down to the level of becoming a more knowledge and educated citizens. Investing usually in the education sector, investing usually in the health sector, and ensuring that we have more growing number of educated and enlightened citizens, because the world has actually moved from the kind of job that different interventions is meant to be to provide, to a more knowledge-driven economy. And if you have to move and get along with the global economy, our interventions must be holistic. It must address the the knowledge gap we have in the country at the moment. It must be able to provide means of having an healthy and well-being citizens, but
Let's take a closer look at the South-South region.
Lessons of
still based on the statistics from the MBS, the third quarter of 2018, it says that the South-South has the number of unemployed persons. If we take a look at that region, for example, what should the state governors of that region be doing? And this is when we compare what the federal is taking from resource and what the states are getting.
Yeah, if you look at what the states are getting and even what they are internally generating, with the exception of Lagos and perhaps River State that is generating like 82 billion, I think other states are not really generating it. That means that whatever government initiative to address poverty has to be decentralized. Decentralized in the sense that state government also needs to come to terms with the fact that the process of driving conversation and interventions around job creation, around addressing the issue of poverty has to be driven by the state government, because the state government happens to be one of the closest to the people after the local government. So I think the states in the South-South government needs to have a rethink about their policy. One of the major ways is that we cannot have one-size-fits-all policies, because our terrain differs, and we also need to take cognizance of the character and behavior, as well as what kind of job that is sellable to the people in the Southeast. For example, we can say we want to invest hugely in agriculture because we have comparatively less number of people from that part of the country, engaging in agricultural activities. So federal government state government rather, needs to look at what needed to be done, not concentrating, solely relying on revenue that is, coming from the federal government, but also to see how can they expand their capacity of generating more resources internally, and also prioritize areas that they need. Particularly, you can look at education. What kind of investment do they need in education? A lot of people in the country now don't go to, most of their children and wards hardly attend public schools.
Mr. Yusuf, we'd like to thank you. We'd like to thank you for joining us at this time. Wish we had more time to talk about this, but then thank you so much, Programs Manager for the Center Democracy and Development. Well, state governors, both re-elected and newly elected, they've been challenged to boost internally generated revenue as well as value-added tax in order to address poverty, illiteracy, malnutrition, and out-of-school children in their states. Well, we'll bring you more on that story, and a guest who will be talking more about what was said when we return after this break.